We are officially final in the Hall of Fame game. You know, in the pregame, Emery, I asked you what you wanted to see in this 60 minutes of football. You should have just said 60 minutes of football because we only got 45. A three-quarter final between the Bears and Texans. This one officially permanently suspended due to a cell of inclement weather, some electric activity that moved in on Canton. So there will be no fourth. It's 21-17. Bears out of the gates in the win column here in the preseason with Brett Rippon leading the way. 11 of 15, $166, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Joe Musso alongside my guy, Emery Hunt, once again. Emery, this was, for the 3 quarters that we got, an interesting game of football. I don't know if we were just longing for football, but as you put it, a lot of high-quality performances, and I want to start with Rippon there. 11 of 15, 166, 3 touchdowns. I know there's a full preseason to sort it all out, but that looked like the guy that should be in the room alongside Caleb Williams.
Right, you saw him identify, diagnose, and get rid of the football quickly. He found Colin Johnson on those sideline rail routes a lot in this ball game, and we saw him just get rid of the football consistently to the open guy. Tight end to Colin Johnson, sideline to Colin Johnson, over the middle to your tight end. Did a great job all night long. It looked as if, to be honest, they were running the same offense as Houston. A lot of plays look very similar. A lot of guys running wide open, but you have to give credit to Rippon, who was a starting quarterback at one point in time in his career for a few games with the Denver Broncos and got his opportunity tonight, made the most of it, and you saw him perform really well.
It was an opening argument there by Rippon that's hard to argue with that battle for the backup that's going to be fought over this next month for Chicago. On the other side, Davis Mills played some solid football as well. Mills famously converts the 2-point conversion 2 years ago that garners the Bears the first overall pick that they flipped for the Kings ransom, including Carolina's eventual first this season that led to Caleb Williams. Time is a flat circle, Emery Hunt, and we are glad that football is back. We're at that point of the timeline, but on the Houston side, what jumped off the page at you? Because I know you were interested in the backfield coming into this game.
Yeah, Cam Akers looked great. If I'm Cam Akers, or if I'm the Houston Texans, I don't play Cam Akers anymore in the preseason. He proved that he's your RB2. You want to keep him healthy, put him on ice, let him go. But you have to be impressed with Xavier Hutchinson, the receiver, going out there and balling like he did. Tegan Quitoriano did a great job as well. I remember speaking to him at the East-West Shrine Bowl a couple years ago. He was a blocking tight end at Oregon State. He said, I can't wait to get out here and show I can catch the football, and he had himself a touchdown tonight. So I like the fact that these guys are showing up and showing out in a preseason game. B-Mac talked about it in the pregame show. This is their serious, real game. This is a regular season game for those guys. But if you're Xavier Hutchinson, you have a chance to now carve your way into that wide receiver conversation.
This marks the 3rd time in the history of the Hall of Fame game that we did not make it to the finish line. 1980, 2003, and now 2024, where it's cut short due to some weather, but we definitely got some data points and something to gnaw on. And I think the biggest question for everybody coming in is one that we got a glimpse at, and that's the kickoff. We're going to go in depth later on here on HQ on some of what we saw, but just a thought here off the top. Did it fit your eye, or is it going to take some time to get used to?
I'm the wrong person to ask, because I've seen this kickoff multiple times over the years.
You're right.
So I was happy to see it at the NFL level, because you always want to see it operate at the highest of levels. And this was the first time we saw it here in the NFL. So I would expect to be some bumps and bruises where we saw guys jumping offside. But for the most part, once we're in like week 6, when you have the elite athletes and the elite returners returning these kicks, and these offensive coordinators and special teams coordinators working together to design blocking schemes for these elite returners to break free, we're going to see some dynamic plays coming up from the dynamic kickoff.
You got Devin Hester heading into the hall. He was interviewed during the games. It looked like he wanted to take one back. He's like, just get me a seam, and I'll make something happen out there still. Going to take some getting used to, but just like the longer extra point or the naming of the commanders, with time, these things, they become part of the canon. Going to take a little time to get used to that kickoff and not saying, oh, getting everybody down the field. But we got our first glimpse. We got our first glimpse at NFL football this season. Emery Hunt, plenty more coming throughout the hour. When we return, we take a look at what the kickoff looked like. A landing zone. Everybody hold. Nobody move. We got more HQ coming next. Well, it happened in Canton, so they won't have to go far with the tape. Take it to the hall. Here's your first look at the new dynamic kickoff that you will see all season long in the NFL. Ball got to be caught in the kick zone. We rolled out the rules earlier in the hour, but it's going to take some time to get used to. New looks in a new year. Emory Hunt, well acquainted with this kickoff style, and you've explained some things to us, but I want to sift through some of the tape that we were offered here on Thursday night, because a couple interesting angles, and I just want to start with the amount of contact that we did see. Why does the NFL want the ball in play if we are moving towards player safety? I understand it's not the full speed sprint down the field, but it did seem like there was some collision, a collision of a different kind here in our first sample size.
It's almost simulating the line of scrimmage with guys are being close to each other on the ball, and at the snap, you're able to get in physical contact right away. It eliminates the guys just running downhill. You see right here on this kickoff, think in terms of a run play. Watch the middle of the screen. It's set up perfectly. Look at the vacated hole right there, and the receiver could have cut back and would have found a nice lane for a touchdown. So you almost kind of set up like either a wide zone or a split zone or a trap play. When you have guys close contact, you kind of take advantage of their own momentum. Old kung fu type situation. I'm going to use your own momentum against you. And we saw them set up properly, but had it been an ideal field conditions there, he probably would have cut back and scored.
So we're going to see some different schematic things, some different blocking philosophies, and another place for teams and special teams coordinators to find an advantage. Who do you think's got the leg up here? I mean, there are the franchises that we think of as schematically sound. How do you take advantage of this kickoff? I know early onset here, and we're just seeing two teams approach to it, but do you think there are different approaches that can be taken?
Yes, because if you look at it from this perspective, let's say from an offensive perspective, the offense has the advantage because we can set up blockers, we can set up schemes, we can kind of trap guys, influence guys. Defense could say we have the advantage because we have body types that we could put out there, guys that are used to getting off blocks and making tackles in space. So if you have those two components, I don't care what you throw at me, I can get off that block, and I'm used to making tackles in space.
We see a lot of big skill, or we saw a lot of big skill usually on kickoff, kick coverage, kick return, tight ends, linebackers, those sort of types. Do you think we see different personnel on the field for what we have in this format? Yes,
you may start to see a little bit more outside linebacker, edge guys, tight ends, safeties, but guys that are able to physically hold their own, but also disengage and make tackles. You won't see the over-the-top offensive lineman because, it's still a speed type play. So you will see a lot more of what looks to be like a regular defense. And on offense, you'll see probably that depth chart expand a little bit more. Tight ends, fullbacks, your back of the roster receiver guys that can come out there and play. We won't see the big linemen up front because you don't want any slow guys. It's almost like when you have the missed extra point from far away, you like, man, we got all our linemen out there. We're in trouble if they return it. That could happen here. We had the Bears on film here, and it reminds me, we saw Devin Hester. No more Israel Idonije out in front of us, what you're telling me, running down the field, taking Devin to the house. We do have some other tape here. We got an interesting angle of what might happen on a weather-affected day. The 12th man means something in Seattle. The 12th man's going to mean something else just about everywhere. When we get windy and inclement weather coming in, they bring a 12th player out on the field to hold the ball. Now, this was obviously fully simulated, was not needed on this night, but this is another interesting angle. You're gonna have a dude running off the field with a kicking tee in his hand, Emory. In Canada, you don't have to worry about the 12th man running off the field because it's 12 guys on the field. But with this one, I found it fascinating because you're gonna have to hustle faster than that when you get off the field. You know what I'm saying? But I get why they do it because who else is gonna be back there? Usually you have the one guy that's along the kickoff coverage unit that's able to, then covers. But this makes sense. I could live with that. Almost like you can live with the fact that the guy who catches the ball on the extra point or field goal, knee is already on the ground, but he's not considered a live player, so he's not down when he touches the ball in college, at least. So this is the same thing. Just add a guy out there and keep running him off the field. We also saw our first mistake. It was made by the Chicago Bears. Early exits before that ball was caught. That will be a penalty. We're going to run you through all those rules once again, but it has begun. Preseason football is here. We will have to wait 1 week until the real preseason schedule gets going, but we promise you football every single Thursday from now until the year 2025. How sweet it is. Preseason week 1, Thursday night, going to feature the Panthers and Pats, the Lions, and the G-Men. We got full highlights coming up next on CBS Sports HQ. You've waited all summer long, and it's finally here. Texans, Bears. 3/4 of them at least.